Have you ever been told you need to be more confident at work, more confident in meetings, more confident sharing your ideas, more confident stepping into leadership? But what if confidence is not actually the problem? My guest today studies something called leadership self-efficacy. It is the belief that you can actually get the job done. And when that belief is shaky, many women compensate by working harder, saying yes to everything, and eventually burning out. Today, we're talking about what leadership self efficacy really is and how tiny leadership moments can change how you show up at work. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Welcome to Career Growth for Working Women. If you're ambitious, capable, and quietly carrying more than your role reflects, you're in the right place. I'm Shannon, promotion and compensation coach, and I help women fast track their next promotion by teaching them how to show their value so clearly leadership can't overlook them. Here, we talk about career advancement, visibility, burnout recovery, and building confidence without burning yourself out or shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. So grab your coffee or reheat it for the third time and let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the show. My guest today is Dr. Fitch Collins, and her career path is one of those that makes you realize how leadership lessons show up in some unexpected places. At 14 years old, Mickey became the youngest professional bass fisherman in the United States. That meant traveling, speaking at seminars, and teaching adults 2 to 4 times her age how to fish. It also meant learning early what it feels like to be a young woman navigating a male-dominated space while finding her voice in front of a crowd. That experience set the stage for a career centered on leadership, learning, and human development. Mickey went on to earn a PhD in leadership and higher education and spent years working across higher education administration, educational technology, and leadership development. Her work today focuses on helping people get better at their work through stronger relationships, clearer communications, and more confident leadership. What I appreciate about Mickey's perspective is that she studies something many women experience but rarely have language for: leadership self-efficacy. This confidence leaders have and the ability to leave effectively. Because when that confidence is shaky, women often compensate by working harder, saying yes to everything, and carrying far more than their role requires. Mickey, welcome. I am so excited to dive into this conversation today.
I am too, Shannon. I have been waiting and waiting for this day to come. I'm so excited, and I love that intro and the spin that you put on things. Whew, I hope I can fill the bill here.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so let's just start off with your leadership journey. I mean, it
Bingo.
began in such an unusual way with at 14, fish. I mean, what
Right.
did that teach you about authority and credibility?
Yeah, I mean it's a great place to start. And yeah, I mean 30 years ago, right? Like, I mean I just want everybody out there listening is like think about your 14-year-old self, right? I was doing things that were a little bit different than what most of my friends are doing. In fact, like a lot different, right?
Right.
And I had to, fishing was a hobby and it was a sport to me. And I got connected to people that, I would go over the winter months. I grew up in Chicago. And so, over the winter months, super cold, right?
Right.
And you go to these expo shows and you go to these seminars and it's like, oh yeah, I want to be like these people. And I'd watch these shows on TV. This was, pre in-home internet and stuff, right?
Right.
So you got to remember that world. And I got connected with these folks that were like, okay, you're not only are you good at fishing, but you're really good at talking about fishing and kind of breaking it down. And do you want to do this more? And I'm like, sure, this sounds awesome. But, when you asked a question about leader, kind of credibility and influence in the room, that was something that, I did what I don't recommend people do, which is the fake it till you make it approach, right?
Yes.
And part of that was because at the time, I mean, nobody was talking to me about self-efficacy. Nobody was talking to me about influencing without authority, like all of these things that we
Right.
talk about in the workplace now. But it was really my parents encouraging me of like, hey, you're good at talking about this stuff. Just get up there and prove that to people. And so I did, and it was scary. I mean, I was sweating, I mean, it was difficult. But
Right.
what happened was I started accumulating these experiences and I would get immediate feedback from people. I'd finish the talk, right? And I'd be kind of wrapping up all my stuff and people would come down, hey kid, right? Like here's this like, 55-year-old guy with a big beer belly or whatever. That was really good. And I never thought about X, Y, and Z, or you did such a really, great job handling all of the questions that people brought up or whatever. And that stuff, I mean, that was deposits in the bank. It was stuff that immediately helped me build my own sense of self and not only confidence, but also the self-efficacy stuff of believing that I can do the task, that I can get the job done. And that confidence and that self-efficacy, that ability to influence, is what continued to lead to more and more opportunities for me to speak and to write and to do TV shows and travel. And, I ended up on the professional staff of over 30 companies at the height, I should call it the height of my professional fishing career, which I was still a teenager for. So, I mean, there was a lot of work that was a lot of groundwork that was laid in those early stages, and still stuff that impacts my work to this day.
Yeah, that's just awesome because I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't even start thinking about leadership roles until they're older. And
Sure.
you had you got your start so young, and I love that because it laid a groundwork for you to be so successful. Um, so I know you've talked about self-efficacy. What would you tell the listener that maybe has never heard that? What does that actually mean in her everyday work life?
Yeah, that's a really great question because a lot of people actually confuse confidence with self-efficacy. Okay. So self-efficacy, this was the researcher, kind of the grandfather of self-efficacy, is a guy by the name of Albert Bandura. And he defined self-efficacy in layman's terms as our ability or our belief in our ability to get the task done, whatever the task might be. If it's cooking a new recipe for dinner tonight, if it's hosting a meeting with your colleagues, if it's teaching somebody how to do something on the manufacturing floor, whatever it is, my own personal belief in my ability to get the job done. Now, the reason why people confuse it with confidence is because in everyday language, we usually say, "Oh, I'm confident I can do that. I feel confident in this situation." But confidence is usually our perception or other people's perceptions of us, right? Like how much do I think, like in this moment, right? How much confidence do I have? Do I think that you have in me, as opposed to my ability and believing I can quote unquote get the job done, which is kind of a weird way to think about doing a podcast. Can I get the job done, right? But there, like a lot of times we say confidence, but what we actually mean is self-efficacy. It's kind of two different directions. And what is really important to me, the distinction that I really want to point out to people, especially to women, is that confidence is over-indexed. It's biased towards big voices in the room, dominant personalities, and dominant demographic factors, right? Men, certain age, whiteness, ability, all of this sort of stuff. And so what comes off as, oh, well, she needs to work on her confidence, right? Is that you're not showing up with a big enough voice, a big enough presence, whatever, right? Like this is where we get into this place of executive presence. Well,
Yes.
much of executive presence, for anybody who's ever like read about that or anything, much of that is actually working on your own self-efficacy. How much do I actually think, how well can I actually get the task done? And that was the focus of my dissertation research that I did for my PhD. And that is so much of what I do these days, is talking with people about self-efficacy.
I love that. I can tell you're passionate about it.
Indeed.
So, what would you tell the women listening? Like they may be sitting here saying, "Well, that sounds great. You've had all this experience. You were 14 when you started this. I'm maybe earlier in my career. Maybe I'm in my 30s.
Sure.
And I may not feel like I'm ready for a big leadership role. How would you encourage her?"
Yeah. The biggest thing that I tell people all the time is tiny steps, not just baby steps, tiny steps. Okay. There is not, I think we get very prescriptive about what is a leadership experience, right? And oftentimes people think it's a certain job title, and a certain, place or position in the hierarchy of a job, or an organization. But leadership is something that we can do in our neighborhoods. It's something that we can do in schools. It's something that we can do, businesses, whatever it is, as well as our workplace. And so what I would tell people to do is to take baby steps, tiny steps. Things like offering your opinion, right? Being brave enough to raise your hand and say, hey, I have some thoughts on this, or I'd like to volunteer to help with XYZ, right? Whether that's the parents organization at your kid's school, whether that's a community organization, a hobbyist group that you're a part of, the book club at the library, or in your organization when you're sitting in a staff meeting and you say, you know what, I have a different idea about how I think we could solve this problem, or I'm not totally sure that we've considered this other thing. That's leadership, right?
Yeah.
And when we do those tiny little steps, and then we take a moment to determine what type of feedback do we get, right? Because hopefully people are giving us some type of verbal feedback, nonverbal feedback. And then we start engaging in a little bit of self-reflection of what did it feel like for me to do that? Do I feel like I could do that again? Did it feel like a hot mess and I never want to do that again, right?
Been
Did
there.
it feel totally been there? Same. I just did that earlier today of like, whoops, right? But like those moments of feedback, if we take tiny steps, we can get big results. And that's the thing that I tell people is like, it's not about waiting until this big, huge moment falls into your lap, because that doesn't happen, right? That's fairy tales. That's nonsense. The tiny steps are the little things where we bring our voice into the room, where we add an idea, we bring some creativity, we maybe carefully oppose something that's brought up, or we volunteer, or we bring our influence. And the thing that I tell people all the time is it's easy to influence when you have authority. It's much harder to influence when you don't have authority. But if you can do so in a way that is helping to make a point that's healthy and helpful, right? Those tiny steps are going to be
Yes.
worth it for you.
I love that because I do feel like anybody can bring their thoughts and their influence in, but as you stated, if you don't have that quote unquote title or you don't feel like you're in that leadership role, you don't feel confident, maybe confident isn't the word, but you don't feel like you have the ability to do that. But
Yeah.
in actuality, you have all these lifelong experiences that show you that maybe they in your perspective is so unique that maybe you see something that they don't see, and just bringing up one little question or questioning or hey, have you thought of it this way would be a huge
Right.
influence that changes the way that the whole team is impacts the whole team and everything. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think, so I work for an organization called Learnit, and what I do is I facilitate workshops on a variety of different human skills that we all need to develop and nurture and grow in the workplace, right? Like, as you said, my job is to help other people get better at their jobs. One of the workshops that I facilitate is called Influence Without Authority. And we talk about exactly that, is that like it's super easy when I'm the director of such and such, or I'm the supervisor of whatever. It's much harder when I'm an individual contributor and I'm on the front lines to be able to say, I have an idea, or, I've made this observation, or I've identified this problem. But if we can do those little things, not only is that allowing other people to see you as a subject matter expert, it's also pouring into that self-efficacy of, you know what, the world didn't come crashing down on me when I brought
right.
my voice into the room. People actually appreciated it. In fact, I got some great feedback from people about that. So tiny
Right.
steps.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we've talked about a lot in leadership, but let's talk about something that I know affects a lot of these women, and that's burnout. I mean,
Mm.
they keep going until they're burnout. What advice do you have for them?
Oh my gosh, we could probably dedicate about 5 more episodes to
Oh
talking about
yeah.
burnout. I think the biggest thing, actually, my supervisor at Learnit, Darren is his name. He shared a great analogy with me that I think is a great thing for us to think about with burnout. Think about that number 2 wooden pencil that we all had to use when we were in school. The only way that that pencil is actually a good tool for you and usable is if you sharpen it. You make the tool usable by taking things away, right? Like you're sharpening, you're taking those shaving. Think about those piles of shaving and those old school sharpeners, right?
Oh
What
yeah.
you're doing is you're making something more effective by removing elements of it. And that to me is one of the greatest antidotes to burnout, which is that we can't keep saying yes to things. And I think this is a problem with a lot of folks. I think that this is a problem. I see this in myself. I see this in other women, right? Is that we want to please people. We want people
Yes.
to be pleased with us. And so we say, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And what we end up doing is we say yes to a bunch of stuff. We overpromise and we massively underdeliver. And in the meantime, what we're doing is we're baking cookies for our kids at 2 a.m. for school the next morning, while we're also checking and responding to emails, while we're also doing loads of laundry, right? And that is not sustainable over time. I know that for a fact because I've been there. So, I think the thing with burnout, and I say this jokingly, or colloquially, right? But I mean, burnout, there's stages of burnout, is that they can go from things that just feel like stress and difficulty to the massive, massive chronic physical health, mental health, emotional health sort of pieces.
Right.
And we have to be willing to recognize that even the earliest stages of stress are the earliest stages of burnout. And the best time to address burnout is not when you're using the term burnout, because by the time we're starting to say burnout to one another, you've already passed the point of initial intervention, right? And so I think the biggest thing is that I talk with folks about, I'm a huge proponent of systems and habits and structures, is to build systems and habits and structures for yourself. And one of those structures has to be, what are the criteria of things that I say yes to? And what are the criteria of things I say no to? And we have to be willing to stick to it.
Right, right. I even like to, I have a big rule that if it's on my calendar, I have to do it. So I schedule in like a little self-care time.
100%.
Even if it's like 15-minute walk here, 15-minute walk there, or like, oh, I'm going to go get a massage on this day, something, because if it's on my calendar, I promise. And that way, that's one of the things that has helped me not to get to that, like, especially when I'm feeling like all the things coming in at me. I'm like, okay, what can I do for myself? And it used to feel like it was so selfish. And now I realize it's one of the best things I ever did for my family, for me and for my family, because, and for my clients, like I should get to show up as my best self instead of the leftovers. So
yeah, you're so right. I mean, think about that. Like, you don't want to show up as this, chopped up bowl of leftovers that nobody wants to eat anyway, right? Like, in all of the situations, whether it's somebody paying you directly or you're part of an organization or whatever, people want and expect the best version of you. Well, that's not possible 100% of the time, but what's attainable is a better version of me, right?
Yes.
Rather than getting the cold leftovers from 3 days ago. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. No,
Yeah.
not at all. Not at all. This has been such a great conversation. If the listeners want to follow you or connect with you, what's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, I would encourage everybody, please go out to LinkedIn. I would welcome you to get connected to me, Mickey Fitch Collins. Hopefully we can share that link out. I love, love, love getting connected with folks, and I'm spending a lot of time talking about self-efficacy these days. And that's one piece. The other thing that I would offer to folks too is if you go to learnit.com, so learnit.com/Mickey, Mickey, just like the mouse. If you're interested, if you're singing the song right now, you're jamming with me.
I was starting to.
If you go there, there's a couple of things that you're going to see at learnit.com/Mickey. One of those things, I host a podcast. If you want to check that out, you can listen to that. The other thing is, if you're interested in checking out some of these workshops, we have a free 45-day trial offer for you and up to 20 teammates to be able to take any of our workshops to just kind of see what we do at Learnit. Because, if we can help you out, we're in for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So as we wrap up today, I love to leave my listeners with either an action step or a mindset shift that they can implement this week. So what would you advise for them?
I'm going to offer both. Okay. So the
Okay.
mindset shift is the pencil, the sharpening pencil, right? So I want everybody out there to kind of think about, what are you doing to sharpen your pencil to make it a more effective tool? But what are you saying no to, or what are you taking away in order to be the sharpest pencil that you can? So that's the mindset thing. The action step I want everybody to take is, I want to do exactly, and it's funny that you mentioned this. I want you to do exactly what you mentioned, which is to put some time on your calendar where you're pouring back into your own cup so that you're not burning yourself out. So whether that's 15 minutes that you can read a book, listen to a podcast, whatever it is, but put something on your calendar that you're actually pouring back into yourself.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to do both of those. So, well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Mickey. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shannon, for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
If today's episode sparked something for you, a question, an idea, or a realization, don't ignore it. I offer promotion strategy calls where we walk through your current role, your goals, and how to position you for your next promotion or raise without burning out or overworking. You can book that call using the link in the description. And if this episode helped you, sharing it or leaving a quick review makes a bigger difference than you know. Until next time, keep sharing your value clearly. You've earned it.